Hello. Friends, family, today we came together to celebrate the union of two beautiful podcasters, me and Carlos. And as you know, our podcast is Seekers, right? Because we seek for many things. The big one of them is truth, but we don't limit ourselves just for truth, right?
Exactly, David. We don't limit ourselves at all. We're limitless beings. We're trying to be limitless beings because we know that there are no limits and that the only limit is our minds.
Exactly. And today I would propose a very interesting idea. It's actually a quote in nature. Not a direct one, but very close. It's a quote from a Nobel Prize winner in literature, Boris Pasternak,
Okay.
who was a great poet and writer in the Soviet Union. And one of his quotes sounded like that we are, as people, are born in nature and that we die in society.
Wow, that's...
And I think it captures a lot, a big narrative. He was truly a religious person. And as we know, God creates us good. We're all born into good, right? We're all born into nature. By the mind of the God was to have us into nature, to give us freedom of the will. And then we're born and we find ourselves in society, and society constrains us. It put limits, frames, it shapes us a lot in a direction where we lose that free will. And that's, I think, what he meant by that phrasing. Do you have any other idea what would he mean by that?
Well, that's a really powerful quote, I think, also. And yeah, I think first, based on what you're saying, we have to understand what's the concept of good and what's the concept of bad. Because when God brought us to our reality, I think there was neither good and there was neither bad. There only was like this perfect child without concepts, without any concepts about society, just a child that looks around and sees like the perfection of everything. And then when we start involving in our society, when we start listening to our families, to our parents, to everything that society comes to play in our minds, then is where our mind starts taking shape and it starts coming into limitations. All those concepts in some way they start limiting us. So we're born in a limitless state of being, and then when we start creating all those concepts related with society and that stuff, that's where we limit our mind and we limit that infinite state of being. And that's where I think that our true selves are dead. We're dead basically in society.
Yeah, it's not a physical death, it's a spiritual death.
Exactly.
We lose our ability to think in many cases. And it's hard to say that all influence from society necessarily limits us, but it's such an overwhelming majority of things. And I think the very important thing to do is to separate it, to be able to distinguish those things that enrich us in society and that limit us. And I think the best way, in some sense, Boris Pasternak predicted by saying that in nature we're all good. In nature we are born. And so maybe we should come back to nature in some way and ask it if what we're offered by society enriches us or limits us.
So
And that's where we might find an answer.
exactly, yeah, I totally agree. I think that, yeah, to be able to distinguish all that, I think that the first step is listen to the only thing that, from my perspective, is a real feeling and a real reality, and I think that's our heart. So I think that we as humans are governed by 2 or 3 entities. The first one is our mind, and our mind is basically on the physical entity. Our mind wants a reward, our mind wants money, our mind wants everything on the material world.
Yes.
But our heart, I think our heart is where nature, or where this primal and this real essence is, because when you hear to what you feel, when you hear to what you really want, to what you really like, to what your real essence want to pursue, that's where you stop going to that overwhelming society and you come back to nature, and you come back to all that real, infinite amount of things that you're born with, basically. So yeah, this first step towards coming back, that actually is not going back, but it's like getting off the limits of society, because yeah, we're established a lot of limits, and the way to get that step and going to the further level is to listen to your heart, to listen to your gut feeling.
Yeah. How do you, because for me it sometimes takes a very a shape of just a stroll through the forest, you know. I find it very useful from time to time to just have an hour or even 30 minutes to just walk in the nature, far away from people, to listen to the sounds of nature, to breathe that air, and to let it, you know, kind of sink in, and try to feel the heart, feel what it tries to tell you. Do you have any kind of habits, or how do you do that? How do you feel?
Okay, so, well, first, whenever I don't do it just by my habits, but I try to apply it in like day-by-day experiences and in moments where you're living and where you're facing your reality. For example, we can do it like just in this moment, and I just changed my mindset and like my perspective, and I think that I'm not me, I'm you, and I'm everyone that's watching our podcast. I'm the trees, I'm the sky, I'm everything. And when you're conscious of that, you're not only yourself, that you're not only your mind, I think that's where you first start hearing everything around you, start listening to everything that's happening, and yeah, that's the first thing I do. The second thing I do is meditation. I think that meditation and mindfulness is also a way in which you stop from all the overwhelming thoughts and all the overwhelming inputs that reality puts in front of you day by day, all this stress, and you stop, take a breath, and start focusing on your breath, on the present moment. because we're always thinking or either in the future or on the past. But if we stay in this present moment, feeling what's really happening, because the only moment that exists is the present. When you start focusing on what's really happening, on how do you feel, on what do you feel, that's where you're.
That's very interesting you say that. I was always very curious about meditation. Are you able to meditate even in the presence of other people who in some sense constitute society, and you are able just by the power of your heart to kind of like distinguish your world at that moment from the people around you, or you need some private space for that?
Okay, I think we can do it in both ways. There are different ways in which you can do it. If you're surrounded by people, I think more than a meditation is a change on the state of consciousness. So you change your state of consciousness of a normal state of consciousness where you're
Where
So you change it to the whole, to the where you're everything, and when you like just change the perspective is where you can simulate a meditation, but you just like change your perspective, and by changing your perspective you're gonna hear more what's really happening. But you can also do it without the society, and that's where you just go down to yourself and you hear to what's happening to you, and you're everything and everything is you. So
in some sense, whenever you're in society, you try to have that different kind of meditation where you go out of boundaries, and when you are by yourself you look into your inner, right?
yeah.
And I think it's a great way to do that. It's exactly the right moment to do it. That's
Exactly.
great. I really like it. I will
Thank you so much.
try to incorporate.
That's great. You
that.
should, and everyone who's watching and listening should also.
That's
try
a great advice from
Thank you so much.
Alan, of course.
Yeah.
And I don't know about this, just walking through the wood. I also think it's
really good.
it's pretty useful. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not only human, you're also nature. You're everything that's around you, and when you walk through the forest, you realize all the perfection things that are surrounding you. That's also a way in which you connect yourself to your real essence.
The other perspective by which you can, look at this quote is that there is no way back. That in some sense we are born in nature, but as we step into the society, we cannot go back in a larger scale, in overall, right? What we talk about is, in some sense, we cope with the presence of society. We have our state of nature that we try to bring up and kind of shape it together with our presence in society. But in some sense, we have a very hard time to completely step out of society and of those limitations that it puts on us. And even though many people attempt to do it, it never turns out so well. We're actually in a great area here. I don't right now remember and can recall the exact name of the writer, but he lived in 19th century in a town nearby Boston, and at some point he decided that he will escape society and live in the woods. it was actually a whole literally movement in literature. But eventually he still resigned that idea. He lived by himself in the woods for almost 3 years and didn't communicate with anyone. He built his home just by himself out of wood and lived there far away from people. But he still was not able to fully, get away from there, and eventually came back. And in some sense, I think that attempt to, to run away, it doesn't fully work. And in some sense, we have to compromise with society and its presence in our life, and find a way to fully live inside that society. And sometimes it is, that way to cope, that way to meditate or go for a walk, and to bring that nature back. But we're still in society, and we have to, in some sense, resist, but in some sense embrace parts of it and be able to live with it.
I totally agree, David. Yeah, so basically, our incredible viewers, today we talked about an incredible and a powerful quote from, what was
Boris
the name?
Pasternak.
Boris Pasternak, that says that we're born in nature and we're dead in society. We analyzed that quote. We ended up in a conclusion that society is basically a part of us, is a part of our reality. We cannot escape our society, but we can take advantage of a lot of incredible things that we're capable and that we as a whole are capable of. We viewed skills such as meditation, such as going for a walk, such as changing your perspective in when you're practicing this communication and when you're in community with people. And I think it was a great session, a great podcast session.
Incredible. Thank you.
Incredible, my friend. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.